It's only been a little more than a month since the unveiling of the iPhone 6, and Apple is at it again with another big product launch. And here's the irony. Apple billed the event with the tagline, "It's been way too long." Now, Mark New joins us live from outside Apple's headquarters in Cupertino to help decode that message. Mark?
Karina, way too long turned out to be references to the iPad and also the iMac. Interestingly, the iPad has been advice scrutinized as of late because its sales have dropped as compared to the iPhone. Apple made no mention of that, but it continued to tout the fact that its iPad in the past 12 months has sold more units than all of PCs from PC makers. Apple also intensely focused on the China market. Just minutes into the event, Tim Cook touted the fact that the iWatch was being featured on the cover of Vogue China. He then proudly announced that the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus would be launching in China within hours.
This is the very first time we've launched a new iPhone on all three networks, and we're doing it perfectly aligned to the early stages of China's huge 4G rollout.
I think the China factor is really important, especially to investors, right? Think about going 4G early in China with all three carriers. That is a huge deal.
Apple also unveiled two new iPad models. The iPad Mini 3 isn't much of a change over the previous model, but it does add fingerprinting Touch ID and a gold color option. The full-size iPad Air 2 adds Touch ID and gets even thinner.
This is the new iPad Air 2. It's unbelievably gorgeous, and look how thin it is.
But while the iPad added minor modifications, analysts I spoke to say by far the most interesting part of the event was the makeover of the iMac computer, which hasn't had a design change in 2 years. Apple unveiled the iMac with a 5K Retina display.
It is the world's highest resolution display. It is an incredible feat of engineering. We call it the Retina 5K display. There are 7 times more pixels on the Retina 5K display than on your HD TV.
The one somewhat of a surprise that was a real standout is the 5K Retina display on the iMac. Absolutely jaw-droppingly gorgeous. You know, I mean, anybody who's a professional photographer, professional videographer is going to fall in love with this machine.
But the new iMac does come at a price nearly $2,500. Apple also released the operating system upgrade, the Yosemite, and one of its unique features is called continuity. The idea is to bridge the gap between computer and mobile devices. If you're working on one device and then move to another device, it'll automatically know what you're working on and where you left off. Karina.
All right, Mark. So as usual at Apple events, lots for techies to bite into. Well, at the last event before this one, Apple announced the new payment system called Apple Pay. Was there any further word on when that's going to become a reality?
Well, Apple announced that Apple Pay will launch on Monday. iPhone 6 users will be able to store their credit cards on their phones, and then they'll be able to tap it at the register and pay for their products. A big concern is whether Apple Pay is widespread enough to really be worthwhile. Apple believes so. It says all three major payment networks, Amex, Visa, and MasterCard, are all on board, as well as the nation's top bank. Tim Cook said today that in the weeks since Apple's last event, 500 new banks have signed up for the Apple Pay system. Apple Pay will also be integrated with the Apple Watch, but still no date as to when the Apple Watch will be hitting the market. It's expected to hit the market sometime early next year. Apple did announce the Apple Watch Kit, which will be available for developers. Those are tools for developers to create apps for the Apple Watch. Perhaps it's best summed up by comedian Stephen Colbert, who had a little bit at the Apple event today. He said he was disappointed with Apple execs because he looked at his wrist and all he saw was a barren wrist. He was chiding them to hurry up. Perhaps it's just a way of building more hype for this big product that will launch next year. Karina.
As if Apple needs any more hype. Thank you, Mark, for joining us. That was Mark New, live from Cupertino in California.